Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Good morning, my neighbors.
Good
Episode 2.
afternoon, good night.
Wherever
Whenever
you
you
are, wherever
are.
you're seeing this video from, I greet you specially.
Hi everyone. Welcome
Fine.
to episode two of season two.
Yeah.
So last
Yeah.
week we talked about our culture shocks from being in Qatar, right? Culture shocks in Qatar. I'm sort of did like a comparison to Nigeria and talked about work-life balance and how
Mm,
what it takes to start a business or to infiltrate the market here, sort of. And yeah, we just dabbled into a lot of things. And we promised that we would be going more in depth and really, to be honest, we're just going to be speaking, nothing scripted, nothing too tight, just sharing our experiences along the way. And again, the theme is going to be our experience as founders or business owners in Nigeria versus now being in Qatar too. So yeah.
yes. So Joy also give advice on key areas when you're entering the market and
Mhm.
also on the different elements when it comes to cultural differences. So that was
Yep.
last episode. So if you've missed that episode, go back and get the
Go
recap.
back. Go and start
Or
from
you
the
on
beginning.
LinkedIn, we did like a full summary on LinkedIn as well. And if you're subscribed to our newsletters, you'll get a full version
Gist.
of it as well.
So if your excuse is that you don't like to watch or listen to stuff, we have it
Exactly.
documented. You
Exactly.
can read it. You
Yes,
know.
yes, yes. So
Right.
today, we're talking about what are we talking about, Joa?
What are we talking about? I think maybe we should just go further into how we progressed our business in Doha, and
Mm-hmm.
we now highlight some of the challenges or experiences that we had across whole the whole change from like beginning of this year and stuff. So
Yeah, so we'll talk about the hires. I think we're taking things from the hiring aspect, the
yeah,
staffing aspect of things, and
yeah.
that will be things around costly mistakes business owners make on both sides of Qatar
Mhm.
and Nigeria, and how we made those mistakes, some mistakes we made.
And how you can get away with some things in Nigeria and not really here. So
Yes,
that's
exactly.
yeah, trying to enter into this market. Yeah.
Exactly. So you like
Um,
my own thing about mistakes, right? Is that if you're not doing anything, you will not make any mistake. It's an evidence that you're working towards something, and there's an evidence that you are experimenting. It's very important to experiment
mhm,
within reason. So you can experiment, but experiment within reason,
mhm,
within a boundary. However, yeah, but if you don't experiment or if you don't try, if you don't venture, you will not know whether you've made a mistake on how to avoid such mistakes in the future, or you will not know if you are on the right track. So it all depends on what is important to you as a business owner as well.
mm,
So let's take it away, Joha. We spoke about, I think, from that culture shock that we spoke about last episode, right? Let's talk
mhm.
about culture shocks when it comes to hiring.
Ah, okay. I think for starters here, yeah, the workforce is predominantly expats, right?
Mm-hmm.
And immigrants, and not really the actual citizens or indigents of Qatar. So it means that when you're hiring, yeah, I know you have to. There's so many things to consider. Visa, relocation, the labor. You have to also look at like what the labor requirements are, right?
Resident permit.
Yeah, resident permits and work visas and all of that. So it's not it's not how we just do in Nigeria that we need someone and you just hire, right? There's so many things to consider, and that also makes the cost of recruitment now to not just even be the regular things that we calculate, like, oh, cost per hire or the time, or this one. Your money is your the company's money and resources are actually, involved, because you are paying for their visas, you are paying for their immigration. If you somebody so if you were to hire somebody here who was under somebody else's sponsorship, the person needs to come out of that sponsorship to now work with you, meaning that you now bear the burden of all the sponsorship visa, work visa, and everything related to the person,
Yeah.
working for you and working with you in Qatar. So if you hire the wrong person, then you have lost that money you get. So it's not a case of you're just going to say, oh, we had the wrong, it was an error, probationary period of 3 months. I'll say, oh, we don't want you. You are going to think well, first of all, if you want the person before you hire the person, and you're going to have a lot of considerations when terminating the person's engagement. And on the flip side, for an employee, you can be
Mm-hmm.
terminated, if it's with cause. For instance, you can be terminated and your sponsorship visa would be withdrawn immediately. Like, they'll just cancel your QID, or they'll cancel it on the trash, and that's it. And then you have like 2 days to leave the country. So
Mm.
there is a shock on both sides.
Yeah.
And as an employee, you have to also take your job seriously. If you came in, on sponsorship visa, you know that if anything goes wrong, then I'm out. I'm not just out of the job, but out of the country.
Yeah.
And I even have like an experience with someone I met recently, who had to he got into like some kind of ruckus or drama, and he was terminated based off of insubordination, right? And that day his QID was cancelled by the
Wow.
company.
Wow.
And he was saying, oh, he needs to leave within the next 48 hours and go back to his country.
Who
And
pays for that ticket back home? The company that terminates him, or he would have to pay from his
you
pocket?
have to pay for your going back home.
Mm.
You pay for your going back home. Now, the only thing that happens that the payments I believe the payments can be transferred is if, for instance, another organization poaches you, right,
Mm.
from your company, and you've not been up to 1 year, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
And I say 1 year because every QID, once you come in with your working visa and it's changed to QID, most QIDs are for like 1 year period or 2 years, right? So if your engagement with your organization with the organization that brought you in is 1 year to be renewed yearly, if
Mm-hmm.
you haven't gotten to that 1 year mark where they can
Mm-hmm.
choose to either renew or not, and another company comes and poaches you, that bill for your visa and everything is now transferred to that
Mm-hmm.
to that company. So they pay your current employer, for instance, and the bill is transferred. But for if they tell you to go back home, you will go back home. Now nobody's going to pay for you to go back home,
Yeah.
especially because is termination, with costs, right? There,
Mm.
you did something and they told you to go.
Yeah.
It's different if they say, oh, we no longer want your services, maybe we're downsizing, and all, then
Mm-hmm.
that's a different situation. So
Wow. So the employee comes in with a work visa, they convert to a resident card, which is the QID, or
mhm,
resident permit, which is the QID. The QID is tied to the company they work for.
exactly.
And the company is responsible for the QID in that term because they're responsible for your immigration, and they have the power, or should I say more like, yeah, the power actually to cancel that QID once you're not under their employment
Yeah.
anymore. That leaves you. So that means that people coming to Qatar either with a job as the backing or a business as their backing. They don't have, there's no in between. So
Yeah.
your everybody that has migrated into Qatar has like their QID tied to a job or tied to a business.
Some are
And
also
is
tied to their spouse. So it's their
some are
spouse.
tied to their spouse, but it's still automatically to a job because
Yeah,
their spouse
yes.
is tied to a job.
Yeah.
That means that there is there is the performance beats that the person needs to be aware of, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Is it's it's um it's very important that you perform on the job, because if you are laid off based on bad performance, that means you're living like basically you're living empty, because you're just going to have to settle like the bill going back and all of those type of things and all of those
Mm-hmm.
issues. Okay.
So both parties sort of lose even.
They lose, actually.
There is a cost, and especially if you're growing an SME or a small business, that's like it's like a heavy cost, because beyond, apart from person's salary, I pay for the person's visa and stuff, which can span up to like from 2,000 to 4K thereabouts
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
materials, right? So you as a business, you have to be careful too, and it means that you cannot hire based on vibes, or you know just hire you have to ask actual questions, and because it's a place that has a lot of expats, you also need to look at things like language barrier. You need to look at cultural fits, when you're hiring. Those are not things that you can just overlook, because
Yeah.
it can cost you, really.
Okay.
And
So
what else
let's talk about the the cost of the cost on the business, right? In terms of when they now lose someone that is a bad performer, or let's say they make that mistake, what is the cost? Like if they got the person like already, maybe from an existing QID already,
Mm-hmm,
if that's possible. You maybe mentioned the spouse part.
mm-hmm,
If you
mm-hmm.
hire someone from there, maybe you didn't really need to do, or do you really need to, like, let me first ask that question. Let's say I hire someone's spouse, right?
Mm-hmm.
That has a QID. Do I need to put that person under my company again?
So and I think it depends on the person, right? Some
Mm,
people request that they remain under their partner's QID,
mm-hmm,
right? And some people want to be able to have their own QID, right?
mm,
Ultimately, it's definitely cheaper to hire somebody who already has an existing QID and does not want to transfer their existing QID, because the person has every right to transfer if they want to. And
yeah.
yeah, so all they
So that
just get
cost is
an approval
if
from.
the
Yeah.
person already in town, it's another type of QID. Okay, that's nice. And then let's talk about the risk of that, right? If that person's already on another QID, right, and person's a bad performer, do you think person will be motivated? Like if they were under your QID, if you're under the company's QID, don't you think that they will be motivated to like perform better so that their
Definitely.
QID is good?
Definitely. And I think that that's what influences the fact that they are paid um lower than somebody who is directly under your QID, right? Because
Mm,
you cannot necessarily control performance or their stay, in
mm,
Qatar, because their stay is not tied to you, right?
exactly.
So people
Exactly.
ordinarily automatically pay people lower who are not
Mm-hmm,
directly under their own QID. And the
mm-hmm.
people who don't know too, not to somebody that don't want to work, they'll tell you that they want to retain. Most times they
Yes.
retain their spouse's
And this
sponsorship.
brings us to our story of the lady we hired.
Well, you know how they say mistakes are what you learn from mistakes, yeah. And that's why we're here. We'll make any business, and let me just say that a side, FYI, any business that's planning to expand into Doha, right? And you want to come through Kelechi and Joha's hand holding, per se, you just know that we've made some of the mistakes so that we don't allow you, we don't want you make.
Mistakes,
We make
exactly.
the same mistakes. But yeah, that's by the side.
So
Yeah,
we
we
hired
hired
a lady. Mhm.
we hired someone, and we should have known it was a, like call it a red flag when she wanted to retain her sponsorship. But I would say that as a new business too, we
We didn't
were
mind.
we didn't mind because it meant we didn't have to go through the hassle of, the hassle and the costs related to, you know changing her sponsorship to ours and all of that. So we did
Mhm.
not mind. But the disadvantage is that she actually did not do anything tangible in the time.
Yeah,
Yeah. And yeah, it was barely it was barely a month, and she didn't do anything much. So
yeah. Yeah.
that
She wasn't
that
serious. She wasn't
she was
serious.
serious. And that was just, it was quite disappointing. But I think now we've learned ultimately. And another thing is that sometimes when something looks too good to be true, maybe it is
That's
too
how
maybe
you
it is too good to be true. But if I'm being honest,
Mhm.
during the hiring process, one of the things that led me towards selecting this candidate was the person's understanding of English, like their English proficiency. She could speak well, as opposed
Mhm.
to many of the other people that I interview within this for the same role and within the setting, but the budget, right? She could speak well.
Mhm.
And as a company that, as English speakers, and as a company that was built, foundation of speaking English, we needed someone
It's
that,
important for us.
yeah, it
Yeah.
was very important for us to be able to at least communicate what we are trying to achieve to this person, because the person can't talk about the business if they don't understand it. So in the interviews, I wasn't quite satisfied with the other candidates, and their grasp of English language. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's why we
Yeah.
selected.
That's
And
that.
it's not only us that have, I've been speaking to many other businesses too who have come from English speaking countries, or just usually typically just speak English. This is something
Mm-hmm.
to look out for. The best balance though would be to find an employee who can speak both English and Arabic. Mwah. That would be
Perfect.
that would be a good balance. But
That'll
even
be a
those
good
ones, they know their words, because they are in a country where there are a lot of immigrants and expats, so they know their words. Once you find somebody who can speak both Arabic and English, they are going to chat their words. Best believe, because they know that they are, you know, they are rare and they are very
good.
valuable.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was our experience. We live to fight another day. Also, I think another culture shock for me was that interns here. Uh, the interns here, they know what they want. It's just think they're doing internship, so you just be giving them chicken change. They interviewed all the interns I interviewed properly. They didn't approach the interviews like they were trying to beg for an opportunity.
Street or something. Mm-hmm.
Somebody even told me that so like she would decide what company she intends with based on what all of them are offering. Like telling me, oh, her like I have,
Yeah.
a couple of
I'm
people.
weighing my
Yeah,
options. Yeah.
way
I
options.
think that's a general thing with the new workforce. I think that they are bold and they approach things from a place of boldness.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Not just like I think in Nigeria I've also met people like that that are very like upfront. I'm like, I'm not desperate. You
Mm-hmm.
need me more than I need you, blah.
Mm-hmm.
But which is
What
I'm
will
not
you pick?
I'm happy anybody and I'm happy for people to know their words, to be
Yeah.
honest. I
Mm-hmm.
encourage it. And I'm not beefing anybody that gives that kind of attitude in an interview, right? I don't have any beefs with you. Like I don't like it's your life in the end. However, for me, I feel like you have to back it up when you are in like the one I hate is I actually employ you and you cannot back it up. You have to back up that.
That's a sad one. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm always like, talk your talk, man.
Talk your
Talk
talk,
your
but
talk
do the work, my
and do the
love.
work. Exactly. Talk your talk and do the work. Another thing I
Yeah.
don't like when it comes to hiring though
Mm.
is during negotiations, you accept a fee that you think is lower, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
you now get into the organization, they now start saying, yeah, they're not paying enough, they don't pay well enough.
Why did you accept the?
So it's offer and acceptance, like nobody forced you, right? These days when I do interviews and people say, and I ask them what their salary expectation is, and they're saying, what's your budget? I said, please forget about my budget. Like, what do you think you're worth? Because, and I'm like, don't tell me I have a budget, yes, but that budget is you that will still say what you want to earn. That will now determine whether it falls into my budget or not, you know.
Exactly.
So say what you think you deserve. And the last
Mhm.
interview I had, she was a HR, I was hiring for a HR manager, and I was like, I know this game. Like I know it too well that you now push it back to me and say, "What's your budget?" I'm saying, you tell me what you want because that helps me to know. Even if I cannot afford your budget, afford your salary, right? If it's something I can say, oh, in the next 3 months, if what you want to earn is something that I can do for you in the next 3 months, then I can make that promise. I can tell
Exactly.
you this is what I have to do and then make the promise. But don't tell me, oh, just tell me your budget. Like say what you want to earn so that when you come inside there and I give you what you want to earn,
So
I've
that
done
you
my
will be satisfied. You are not
yeah.
like
But
disgruntled.
don't come down. When you tell me whatever, I'll ask you, is it negotiable? If it's not negotiable, bye bye. I will hope I will be able to afford you one day, you know.
So
And
let's go to our HR and business lessons before we wrap up.
yeah,
And then we tell people a couple of other things. Why we chose this topic.
okay.
So let's go to our HR and business lessons. For this whole hiring game, Nigeria versus Qatar lessons will be don't rush. Don't rush. Don't hire your friend. Don't
Slow
hire
push.
your friend. Don't hire based on friendship but competence. This brings me
Mm-hmm.
to another of our stories that we had like 2023, 2024, end of 2023 to 2024. We had a lot of people that we hired that were our friends as well. They were not necessarily competent,
Mm-hmm.
right? And what we saw was
Or
empty
shady dancer.
promises,
Sorry.
empty promises, nonchalant attitude, what will I say, distractions,
Hmm.
and we ended up being the villains in most of them story
Yeah,
because
and
we
I think
feel
on our own end, we
what
couldn't
to do.
also strong arm them. Like we couldn't because of the
Yes,
first relationship,
yes,
we couldn't put
yes,
our feet down on what it is that we were expecting because we're trying to also maintain the relationship, and that puts you in a very difficult spot as as a CEO, as a decision maker.
exactly, exactly.
So it
And
was very
they were in key positions also. So the way because I couldn't like insist on some stuff with them based on past friendship, that also trickled down into the rest of the team.
yeah,
And
we'd say that.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was also a challenge. So don't hire based on competence only, and make sure that it's not because of friendship, it's not because of what I like. Even if I know you from somewhere else, like go through the whole process and get hired based on competence. So that's
Hmm.
my own number one lesson. What's your own? What's your
Um,
lesson?
my own would be that a lot of times we focus on what's the culture fits. Yeah. And I think that we are relaxing a bit on actual competence. So
Mm-hmm.
we should bring back going back to hiring people, that are competent and not just fit the aesthetic of the business. And I say this because I sat in an interview one time and the only candidate that did brilliantly, the rest of the people in the team were like, but it's too old. But it's older than us. And the younger ones didn't have yeah,
Mm-hmm.
they didn't have the experience that that company
Or
because it
the
was supposed
hunger
to
for it.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
they didn't have the experience and the hunger, yeah, right. So it's supposed to be a group company and they needed somebody who had like a wealth of experience, especially across different industries that were under this group. But
Mm-hmm.
because the team was like the younger generation, they sort of brushed over the fact that he's older. I think he's older. And the thing is that for that role, right? competence was more important than culture fits, as far as I'm
Mm.
concerned, because
Maybe
you know.
I feel like culture fit can be imbibed eventually, in my own opinion. I know
Mhm,
motivational speakers will say something different, but like I've seen people learn from the rest of the team. Like if you hire someone that is not a like well, this some of these things that we call culture fit, we need to also redefine it.
mhm,
Like aesthetics is not just like I I've had like arguments with a client that said that someone had been hired and they realized he's disabled. And I tried to bring him to that point of okay, the person it was a virtual interview and the person did not declare that they were disabled, which was quite frustrating for the employer.
mhm.
However, what I was trying to also weigh in on that issue was that how competent is that person? That person had worked in other organizations before yours. What was the referral from those organizations? What did they have to say about him? And I think those ones didn't have anything wrong to say about him. So yes, these things that we call, like you said, go ahead, competence versus culture
Yeah,
fit.
those are always the good employee, the right fit in quotes may not necessarily fit your company's aesthetic, and
Mm-hmm.
I think it also depends on what the company's value or goals are at the time, right? If you're trying to present yourself as one aesthetically pleasing all young team, fine, maybe
Mm-hmm.
like you can try to focus on that. But generally, if you're looking to get things done, and especially now that teams are virtual, who knows who is working in your tech department, and if they have a pretty face or if they sound nice, you like let the work be done. Let's bring
Yeah.
back so that we
But
can
for
get.
me, character, uncle.
Oh no, character is important. You know,
Mm-hmm.
character is very important. Because you don't want somebody who knows everything but thinks that they know more than you and no more than
Yeah.
everybody else, because it
Yeah.
means that you can't correct them. It means that they can't learn from others. And
Mm-hmm.
once you hire somebody that thinks that they've stopped learning, then you're in trouble,
Mm-hmm.
because how will you grow? Because even you as a founder, and every business is on a learning journey. Every day you're learning. As far as every day as a business, you're learning something new, sort of. And
Exactly.
you hire somebody who thinks that they've already learned everything, they're going to
Mm-hmm.
sort of halt you and slow you down as a business, because
100%.
so stuck in what it is that they believe they know, and they're not open to change and improvement. So
Yeah.
yes, character is very important,
Mm-hmm.
and the attitude to work generally. Somebody said she had a fantastic CTO, but he just had a bad, like he wouldn't work when others are working, he wouldn't pick up the work is done, but the attitude, like doing things on his own time, also not responding to the rest of the team. Like he responds when he wants, but the output is there, but the rest of the team is frustrated. So there are just some things that you need to think about. So maybe someone that likes to work like that may not be a great team leader, for
Yeah.
instance,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
might be a good addition to the team in terms of turning out his
Mm.
responsibilities. Like, oh, if you give him a task and he's doing it, fine,
Yeah.
but it might not be good enough to lead the team,
Team.
because he's not able to motivate them, and they're really not learning anything if he's working in isolation and just
Yeah.
uh,
That's
so
just a bad character. That's a character flaw. Yeah.
yeah, so everybody's not a leader on your team. And everybody just wants to
Everybody
be
does not have the
that they
ability
can
to
do the work excellently does not
someone
mean
can do work, yeah, excellently, yeah, but they might not have the ability
that,
to lead. So
yeah, that they can lead the team.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that's something.
I think it's for you to I think spotting talent as a business owner or HR is so important. The ability to spot talent is so important. You make mistakes on some days, but the ability to spot the talent that you need, it's
Mhm,
it's 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 so you cannot over we cannot overemphasize. So for me, another one I would like to say is your probation period is your probation period. Like be active in that period to see if that person is going to if that person is going to be what's it called, competent enough to be on the team
mhm,
permanently. Don't. But don't play with probation period. Is actually I've seen people play around with that period. Like so you don't measure anything, you're not measuring anything, and then you're not surprised that the person did not perform. I think it takes 1 or 2 months max. You will know a bad
Yeah,
performance.
depending on the role,
Yeah,
you
can
can
actually
actually find out in
just
1 month.
use
And
that
that
probation
that it
period.
says 3 months does not mean that if you clock that someone is not good enough for you in less
After
than
1 month,
you
yeah.
don't fire the person. You don't have to wait for 3 months
Mm-hmm.
to to fire someone that is not competent. The worst mistake you can make is not fire on time. When you realize that, so
Costly.
yeah, it becomes expensive, and I say this every time because I witness it even like with clients with like once that you just know once that the complaints start coming, all those things, just let them go. It's difficult to we as business owners we like to hold on to because you're forming you're thinking about, oh, how do I feel in
And
this and that,
what's so
everything,
sentimental.
hiring takes so long and all of that, but you would actually be better for it, to be honest.
Mm,
You'd be better for it. I encourage it,
yep.
and I'm trying. Sometimes I'm also trying to learn and like stand by, like, oh, I no longer want this person because this person has dragged my business for so long, and just slowed us down. Make the decision and just stand by it. Yeah, and I think that that
Yeah.
also goes to having like talent pool too. So if the issue is that it's going to take long for you to fill in the role again, then I
Mm-hmm.
think you need to
Or
actively
back up, yeah. Mm-hmm.
up so that that fear is reduced or eliminated completely.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So next point will be about onboarding period. I think that's another period you can use to spot red flags.
Yeah, yeah, and I think onboarding generally is something that we overlook, underlook. What's the word? We don't really do
Yeah.
it.
You don't do it, yeah.
We don't do it
A lot of
enough. We don't
a
pay
lot
enough
of
attention
things.
to it.
Yeah.
Can actually determine how the employees experience in your organization and their understanding of the role. I remember a client that hired someone, and the person had to send us a message that she had not been onboarded and she doesn't actually know what's happening in this company. And this was 2 weeks already into her working there.
Imagine.
I'm just
Mm-hmm.
like, eh? So for that, for us, because if she doesn't understand what's happening, then it's only a matter of
You don't
time
have
for
enough, yes.
yeah, for her to either resign or get fired. So we had to reach out to the employer to set up a meeting and say, please, oh, this person has been hired. You people have not given the person enough onboarding or orientation about the business, and she's completely clueless. So, and what and that happens a lot. You hire somebody, you believe that they're a great fit, right? But the truth is
Mhm.
that you can't know how much of a fit that they are until they have complete understanding of what's happening in your organization, and then they are able to contribute to what's happening. So
Yeah,
we need to not overlook or brush aside the onboarding phase or onboarding period,
once
when
we
you
enter
hire
the role, yep.
yes, because
Have
it's
a
very
proper
important,
onboarding. Yeah.
very important. And like onboarding is not just this is your laptop, this is where you sit down, and these
Yeah.
are the tools.
I think people mistake orientation for onboarding.
Yeah, so that's what I'm even saying. That that's not just it. There is that your onboarding can even be as long as your probationary period in some organizations, because in onboarding you also need to,
Onboarding can be a whole year.
yeah, you need to, we also overlook the assigning somebody as a body, like as a partner or a mentor, depending on the role that is going to
Mm-hmm.
be handholding this new hire or new hires, right?
Mm-hmm.
Another thing that you can do is give them a glimpse into what's happening, even if it's a tech, to let them know what's happening like across the
Exactly.
organization, right? I know of one of our clients, we helped them to what we started doing when they complain about onboarding is that the every new hire sits in every department. So their offices have like different department, the credit department, the finance department, sales and marketing. So when we hire one person, the person does one week working from either of
The
these offices.
difference. Yeah.
so that they understand the process too. So that's
Mm-hmm.
something that can be adopted to
Yeah.
when you hire people.
Yeah. So
Um,
onboarding is a long term and an engaging period to weigh in on productivity, to weigh in on development of the staff. Sometimes onboarding too would integrate training. It will integrate all sorts of on the job exposure. Like Joa said, the exposure to different departments was something that a strategy that she used for a client, just learning of about the different departments and learning what to do. And I think, yeah, use that onboarding period to know where the red flags are from your hiring process.
mhm.
Now let's wrap up and go to something more detailed, right? I think we
Mhm.
can talk a bit about cost. Okay, I think you mentioned some cost in the last what you
Yeah.
said about, but I think we can touch on um what
I
leads to some bad hires in Qatar.
think,
Then we can now say solutions to prevent.
but I feel like we've already spoken a bit into the solutions.
Yes, maybe we'll just do like a list of maybe
Yeah.
just like just maybe we should speak more on the solutions, not just the problems.
Okay.
I think the problems are there.
Yeah. So for solutions, right? First of all, don't be in a hurry to hire. Right. First of all, don't be in a hurry to hire. Um, take your time to first identify what you actually need
Mm,
like what do you need. Identify what the role is,
mm-hmm,
because that helps you to know what who to call in for interviews and what you're looking for during these interviews. So if you've
mm-hmm,
not thought out, don't think that because a new company just came and they needed a salesperson, you also need a salesperson. Like
mm,
check what your business needs and craft out what role you need in your business at the time before you now go into posting job ads and then
mm,
go up for interviews. And then during your interviews, like focus on, remember I said don't focus on just cultural fit, focus on competency, right? Have competency based questions during your interviews that align with your business as well. um Kelechi also mentioned a solution, which is probation management. During your probationary period, make sure that you are monitoring their progress, their productivity, ensure that these people actually know what the company is doing that during that time, so that then you can actually evaluate them. So
mm.
monitor probation. Don't let probation just pass you by. Don't be so caught up that you say, "Oh wow, it's now 3 months. What did the person do?" And you don't know what person had done in 3 months. Hey, then we said onboarding, right? During their
Mm,
run, ensure that they've been onboarded well enough. Some people say do 6 months, right? In the first 3 months, they are onboarding you, and in the next 3 months, they are now monitoring what you are able to do now that you understand the business. And some people do 1 month and then use the remaining 2 months to check you out. So you can also structure it that way so that you can track it properly, and
mm-hmm,
you know build your talent pool, right?
mm-hmm,
Because it helps you to know when you want to hire people. You can always go through your talent existing talent pool, and that also, like I said, it makes you fire it, easier if you know that you have a pool of candidates
yeah.
uh,
Mm-hmm.
that you
You're
can
not
always
desperate.
go through. Yeah. So I think that would be my would I say my tips, or it's sort of also a summary of what both myself and Kirichi have discussed on this call.
Yes, yes, it was actually a summary. So that's a wrap up, guys. And I think Joe has covered everything. We spoke a lot about different things, cost of hiring. We spoke a lot about the two areas. We didn't really compare Nigerian hiring because most of us on the call we already know what Nigerian hiring scene is like. So we're speaking mostly to those coming into Qatar. So I'm sure that this will be useful and helpful.
Yeah, but the tips are general though. They
Yeah, they
apply.
are doing how they apply. Yes, across board. I agree. I agree. I agree. So thank you so much for tuning in again. Um,
Yeah.
I'm
Thank
trying
you,
to
guys.
I'm trying to make this more consistent. So please encourage us, follow us on social media, and engage with this post when you see it.
Yes. Follow Arbitak, follow Reposebay, follow Ready Job Seeker, and please engage with us. You can check out our websites
Check out
and
our website, all our service offerings. We're
yeah,
very we've been doing this for a long time, so we're your resource people when it comes to anything hiring,
yeah,
technology, HR technology, anything HR technology, hiring, enterprise tech, HR consulting. We got you.
yeah. All right. In that case, we'll be signing out.
See you next episode. Bye, guys.
Bye.